Hi everyone, this is Debika Bادكون and welcome to the Live, Love, Laugh lecture series.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the 2021 Live, Love, Laugh lecture series. Live, Love, Laugh started in 2015 and was founded by Debika Bádكون to offer hope to every person experiencing stress, anxiety and depression. We work on 3 core impact areas: mental health education for adolescents, capacity building for doctors, and access to mental health care in rural communities. Live, Love, Laugh is committed to building and expanding on the mental health conversation in India. Our work helps to create the dialogue that plays a significant role in awareness building and reducing the stigma associated with mental illness. The Live, Love, Laugh lecture series is an important step in this direction. Initiated in 2019, the Live, Love, Laugh lecture series features the world's foremost thinkers and influencers sharing their perspective on the forces that shape the mental health narrative. I'm delighted to welcome our featured speaker for this year's lecture series, Abhinav Bindra. Abhinav Bindra's journey to become the first Indian to win an individual Olympic gold and the first Indian to win a world championship gold in air rifle shooting is an example of his single-minded quest for perfection. His victory at the Beijing Olympics was not just a personal one, but it broke a sporting barrier that had haunted a nation for over a century. A recipient of the Arjuna Award and the youngest recipient of the Major Dhyan Chand Khel Ratna Award, he was also conferred with India's 3rd highest civilian award, the Padma Bhushan, in 2009. He chaired the International Shooting Sport Federation Athletes Committee for 8 years and is currently a member of the International Olympic Committee's Athlete Commission. He is also a member of the IOC's Working Group on Athlete Mental Health. A truly outstanding athlete, Abhinav uses his platform as an Olympic champion and now as a sports administrator to promote mental well-being. His nuanced views are informed by his own struggles with mental health and are particularly relevant given the pandemic and the recent global focus on athletes' mental health, including at the Tokyo Olympics. Thank you once again for joining us, Abhinav.
Hello everybody. I will always remember the day my life changed forever. I was supposed to feel elation. Instead, I felt the weight of the gold medal around my neck. I stood on top of the Olympic podium for all the world to see, but I would have rather been buried under my blanket, lying alone in bed. August 11th, 2008, the only goal I had lived for over the years stood achieved. It evoked an indescribable emptiness. Fearless, composed, confident. These adjectives are used when trying to describe athletes and their personalities. Throughout my career of 5 Olympic cycles and 22 years in sport, I was none of these. Let me tell you a little bit more about that today. My thanks to the team at the Live, Love, Laugh Foundation for inviting me to speak. I would like to use this opportunity to share my thoughts and provoke a wider discussion for both the mental health community and for those who administer high-performance sport. I'm acutely aware that my personal struggles as an athlete are not isolated. Many athletes are now speaking out and speaking up. The vast majority of athletes suffer in silence, alone. I'm hopeful that we can all act together to improve the lives of not just our athletes, but also those we can impact through sport. There is little doubt that mental health is a massive societal challenge at the global level. In a world that is plagued with violence, fake news, climate-bound catastrophes, and similar realities, our minds can find it difficult to focus or find stable ground and a sense of peace. It becomes challenging to shed the veil of anxiety through which we perceive our world. Poor mental health is more prevalent than perhaps it has ever been. With the buzz and excitement of elite sport, it is easy to forget that athletes are humans too. Largely left out of the narrative of sport is the reality that elite athletes are by no means immune from mental illness and are at least at equal risk as the rest of the population. In fact, research has shown that athletes encounter more triggers and risk factors and have access to fewer outlets and other releases than non-athletes when dealing with mental health challenges and issues. Preparing for 5 Olympics took me to many places, but the darkest of places was in my mind. I did not talk about my mental struggles to anyone. I didn't even admit them to myself. As much as we valorize and glorify athletes' physical achievements and resilience, we must acknowledge the disproportionate costs that athletes bear. We must commit to study and support their mental journeys. The mental side of an athlete is often disenfranchised as a servant of the physical quest without an identity or position of its own. It yearns to be acknowledged, recognized, responded to. There is also survivorship bias, silencing many of the other stories. Many athletes, including me, were told that frailty and mental illness is a sign of weakness. The world that an athlete lives in is so competitive that many consider it a cardinal sin to even open up about what they are feeling. Add injury, pressures of competition, dealing with success, dealing with failure, travel, overtraining, lack of sleep, retirement, or the impending end of a career. Each of these has the potential to lead to psychological stress and can trigger other mental conditions. But the athlete has been trained and socially conditioned to channelize physical stress, to enjoy it. She has also been trained to silence the mind, feelings, emotions. The sports industry, I use the term deliberately, has ended up prioritizing medals over all else, creating an atmosphere that rejects any form of failure. This pressure, fueled by society, only focuses on the outcome and can drive athletes towards developing a one-track mind, ignoring every aspect of their life other than sport, performance, and winning. The large base of competition at grassroots level is also seen as a constant reminder that if you veer off your goals, someone else can take your place. This can create a toxic culture that breeds anxiety. Self-worth is tied to a rank, to extrinsic results. Results can begin to govern one's mental state at all times. This can also take away the agency from athletes to define their own happiness. I had no balance in my life. Training brought me meaning, but it also became an obsession, the only source of meaning for me. I never really enjoyed the sport. This made competition even more difficult. Every event was the source of huge anxiety. Vomits and a runny tummy replaced my pre-competition stretching routine. This quest for sporting excellence took over my entire life. Then I won Olympic gold. Of course I was proud. I had accomplished the goal I had worked so hard for. My life's work had been accomplished. I sunk without a trace over the next few months, and all I could think of, is this it? While everyone celebrated, I had lost purpose, and ironically, I was as far away from happiness as I have ever been. Was it all worth it? Most would think so. In the run-up, I thought so too. Today, as I look around me and experience life after sport, outside sport, I'm not so sure. Let me share some statistics that recent research has thrown up. 1 in 3 athletes may experience poor mental health symptoms in their career. 49% of athletes would be classified as poor sleepers. 33.6% athletes and 26.4% former athletes have reported symptoms of anxiety or depression. A 2020 study found that 1 in 6 international athletes reported having experienced suicidal ideation. A 2018 meta-analysis found that 19% of athletes and 21.1% of former athletes reported symptoms of alcohol misuse. I was a part of this statistic. And I felt horrible both after a spirit-crushing and unsuccessful outing at the 2004 Athens Olympics and also after winning Olympic gold at Beijing. Winning was as challenging as losing, perhaps even more challenging. Is this a healthy way for some of the most physically healthy people in the world to live? It says a lot that there is a term called post-Olympic blues that many athletes face. The supposed high point of an athlete's life sometimes brings some of the lowest lows they will ever face. How did I deal with this personally? I wish I had sought professional help, but I had been conditioned to solve my own problems and seek counsel of a small group of people in my inner circle. My first challenge was to admit to myself that I was not feeling okay. This was not a normal response to either failure or success. Next, I spoke to a few close confidants who had seen me at various stages of my career. I am by nature a private person, and this itself felt like a lot to share, but I'm glad I did. Involving more people in this was a big step for me. It was essential to my process of self-care. After the Beijing Olympics, I chose to attend a Vipassana course to realign myself and seek meaning again. This was very helpful, and it started a journey of gratitude towards the process of my sport of shooting and trying to detach myself from the outcome. I came to the understanding that winning gold cannot be equated to happiness. I realized I loved the sport and the process of training every day, and the journey of improvement and the life it gave me was what I loved. Yet winning the gold was tough because it was an outcome I had worked towards, even if I did not equate it with happiness. There was a strange emptiness that overcame me. The dissonance was greater as others were celebrating this achievement and celebrating me. I have no silver bullets or lessons to pass on, but I only hope to share, acutely aware that mine was not an isolated case of an athlete facing mental health challenges. During my career, I was in a position where speaking out publicly did not seem like an option to me. Today, that weight is off my shoulders, and I'm happy to see other athletes being more open, talking about mental health during their careers. I also got more involved with the mental health aspect of the sports movement and have been involved with the work of the International Olympic Committee's Athletes Commission and wanted to use the opportunity to take things forward on mental health for athletes. Through my foundation, I've also been working on athlete mental wellness programs for athletes in India. These opportunities to try and make things better for the next generation of athletes has also contributed to my process of healing. The sports ecosystem needs to have more of the conversations and more education on what it takes to create a safe space for athletes to pursue sport, especially at the grassroots level. By helping coaches be more empathetic, by having measures to address concerns of athletes that reach out, and more importantly, giving every athlete the assurance, that comfort of knowing that they can reach out and talk about what they're going through meaningfully is paramount. Mental illness is not a weakness. In fact, recognizing and treating it personifies wholesomeness and power. By committing to improve the mental health of elite athletes, we might be able to reduce suffering and improve the quality of life not only of elite athletes, but also serve to set standards and spread awareness and knowledge about mental health in the way that it does with physical health. Mental illness must be treated no differently than other medical or surgical illnesses or injuries. Elite athletes have been held up as exemplars of excellence, as superheroes, as outliers. They can also become ambassadors of doing wonderful things while remaining perfectly imperfect humans. Recreational sport also has the potential to contribute to the mental and physical well-being of society. Many of us across professions and our upbringings have the tendency to dismiss mental health. I certainly did. I have come to learn that none of us is infallible, and yet very few of us are wired to acknowledge it, let alone put in the work to address it. For all of us, life can be unpredictable. It can often be overwhelming. Poor health, either physical or mental, can come upon you from unlikely sources and when you least expect it, even in times when it is incomprehensible for others. It is okay. This does not make you less excellent, less of an achiever. My own journey has not been easy, and I want to give a message of hope to all of you listening that things can and do get better. It is okay to not be okay. Be kind to yourself. Nothing is more important. Make your health and well-being your gold medal. Reach out for help when you need it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Abhinav.
My childhood, I was a brat, I was naughty. That's my memory of my childhood. But yes, I think my initial years started with a lot of, it was very structured, it was very, I would think like most other homes, wake up in the morning, go to school, come back, friends, play downstairs. Both my sister and I were not into watching television or reading. For us, it was more about going downstairs and playing, in the building with our friends, playing cricket, playing hide and seek. And then at some point in my life, I remember I started playing professional badminton, and I think that's when my life changed a little bit. Because then as an athlete, you have a routine and you have training. So my life started with 4:35 in the morning. You go for your first round of physical conditioning, come back. I didn't get permission from school to sort of go late. So I would finish my physical conditioning, come back home, quickly have a shower, have breakfast, run to school and just about make it in time for my first class. School would finish around 3:34, come back home, have a snack, again rush to the court because this was the on-court session. Throw in a massive session for a couple of hours, come back, do homework, have dinner, crash. That was literally my schedule from Monday to Friday. And Saturdays was, I think, catching up on homework, occasionally maybe going out as a family. We didn't really go out much. We hardly watch very many movies. And even eating out was sort of very streamlined, and maybe once in a week we'd maybe go out to a restaurant. And that was my life until I was about 16, and then board exams happened, and then I realized that this is not what I wanted to do professionally, and that modeling and acting was my calling, and here I am now.
For me, it was similar in many ways in terms of structure. It was very regimented, very structured, but I think there was one thing not similar, which was that as a young boy, I hated sport. I was this fat little boy whose only talent in life was to miss physical education classes at school. I was in a boarding school and I hated it there, but I used to receive a letter from my father practically every day, and it had one thing in common, which was to play sport. Of course, I didn't listen to him, and I finally got out of boarding school and started going to a day school. And that's where I got introduced to the sport of shooting. I was looking for just a pastime after school hours to do something, and a family friend introduced me to the sport of shooting, and I went to my first formal shooting session, and I loved it, because to be successful in that sport, I had to stand still and not really run around too much. But that was, of course, the entry into the sport. To do well, I had to also make my my weak point a strength. But that's just the way it started. It was